I'd like to welcome you all to our board meeting today. It is Thursday, August 13th, and it is 6:03 p.m. I'm calling to order the Board of Education meeting for Lake Mountain School District held at our district office at 1307 North Commerce Drive in Saratoga Springs, Utah. First up on our agenda, we have the Pledge of Allegiance, and we have some students here from Eagle Valley who are here to support. So we're going to invite you guys to this microphone right here. We're going to ask everybody in the audience to stand, and then when you guys are ready, you can start and we'll join you in the pledge, okay? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good job, guys. Thanks for being here. You guys did awesome. Okay, next up for our inspirational thought, we have Melissa Graham, who is the PTA Secretary at Eagle Valley Elementary.
She said, "I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples." And I think that's what we all do, is we might not feel like we can change everything, but we can do a little bit here and there and cast our own little stones in. But every little bit creates a ripple that then affects more and more people until we make a huge change across our district and across the world. So, and thanks.
Thanks, Melissa. We appreciate that. Next up on our agenda, we have community comments. We have 2 community comments this evening, and so I'm going to read information about the public comment process. So we have up to 30 minutes set aside for public comment. This opportunity is allocated for patrons living within the Lake Mountain School District boundary. A sign-up sheet was available prior to this meeting, allowing up to 10 patrons the opportunity to speak. Those living outside of Lake Mountain School District and those who were unable to sign up before all slots were full can submit written comments at alpineschools.org/o/lake-mountain-district/page/board. And yay if you got that. As you are called up, please introduce yourself by stating your name. You'll be given up to 3 minutes to speak. While the board does not engage in a discussion during the public comment period, they may arrange to communicate with you later. Personnel issues are not appropriate discussion items for an open meeting environment. If you have a personnel concern, please put your concerns in writing and address it to the Board of Education. So first up, we have Kimber. If we could have you come to the microphone right here. And then they're going to set a timer for, when I say they, I mean Bree. Are you going to set a timer for 3 minutes?
Okay, you cut me off.
And then the alarms will go, and I'm just kidding. It'll be fine.
Okay.
And then if you would go ahead and state your name for the record, that'd be great.
Okay, my name is Kimber Bergen. I am a parent to 2 Thunder Ridge kids that currently do not have a bus stop in an area that is accelerated in growth. It has, in fact, been completely deleted. There's currently 1 stop at Scarlet Drive, bus 878, that is supposed to cover the bases of over 300 single-family homes, 250 townhomes, and 360 condos. I am concerned what is to come this Wednesday when over 400 children tried to get onto 1 single bus. I've been on the phone with the district transportation all morning, and their biggest concern is the students that don't fall within the bus boundaries, specifically Talus Ridge, will bum a ride and overcrowd the buses. Their answer is to avoid a stop near our neighborhood, where these children live, completely. It has been difficult to sit and listen about a greater concern over the 2% not following rules than we are about the 98% who need these transportation options. If needed, can we not require a bus pass for all students, similar to the format used for all kindergartners, with a bus tag? That way all students have the right to be on the bus and the right to be safe on their travel home, on and off the bus. I am told and completely understand that some distance walking may be required to accommodate all that take the bus. This is not a flat 1.5 mile distance from this one bus stop for my children to get home. These roads are steep and long. I run my streets weekly and it takes everything out of me. How are we able to ask that of a kindergartner? A 250-foot elevation decline down and back up again twice a day. Our HOA does not ice our sidewalks. My kids with this current stop will have to cross not one, not two, not three, but 4 separate intersections without the guide of a cross guard and 2 without crosswalks at all, just to get to the street that they live on, and that is only if they take one specific route. Enrollment percentages surely support more than one bus. I know of 2 separate spots on this same street, not requiring the bus to navigate the narrow neighborhoods it's the same street of this one stop that is closer and safer for our kids. A stop at Banner Drive or even again near Mount Saratoga Park would allow these kids a safer walkway, and the bus can maintain an easy and accessible driving route. Based on the 1.5 mile legal requirement, any location further than 1598 Talus Ridge Drive should be provided with a bus. Am I out of time? Okay, thank you.
Kimber, we don't engage in discussion in the meeting, but because this is an Alpine issue, since it's Alpine and not Lake Mountain just yet, either Joylyn or I will coordinate and we'll reach out to you, just FYI, okay? Next up, we have Trey, is it Moody? Is that correct? Yep. Trey, we'd invite you to the stand. Just a reminder, 3 minutes, and if you would state your name for the record, that'd be great.
You want me to stand or sit?
Sit, sorry.
Okay.
I was just, I was quizzing you there.
Well, I know, you're like, you can stand, and I'm like, okay, well. Okay, my name's Trey Mooney. My wife, Bonnie, and I are here tonight, and we just want to make sure that our voices are heard about the development of the property that's just east of us, our home. We're at 348 North Carlton, and there's that big, open, vacant area that I heard is going to be a soccer field. Okay, yeah, that's, I know we don't engage, I was just kidding. That's what we were told when we moved in. It was going to be a soccer field originally, and we were looking forward to that. We know things change, and we've been notified. Matt Isaacson has made us aware that we're in proposals for the use of that property, and there'll be 5 homes that are impacted by that field. And we just want to make sure that as these designs come forward and before the final approval, that we have say, because part of that proposal is a building. And one of the initial proposals is that building would be placed right behind us, which would, block our view potentially. And so we just want to make sure that the board gives us every opportunity to weigh in. And I know with Matt, we're already considering the placement of that building that would have not the same type of impact on these 5 residential homes by the proximity to our yard, our backyard, or we understand that part of it's going to be a parking lot and training. There's a number of different things. So just wanted to voice my concern or potential concern, that we just want to be involved in those decisions and be able to weigh in. And that's it, this first time. So I would have stood for this, really pounded things, but appreciate the opportunity to participate tonight and express those concerns. And I don't think you engaged me or asked me any questions, so he makes my life easier. But I'm looking around, you guys are smiling like, oh, I want to ask you. Oh, I see the mic moving, okay.
I'm not sure where this is. Is this part of West Transportation?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I just was pinpointing it.
Okay, no, very good. What's that area called again, just so we have a common reference?
Oh, just for me, it's
Oh.
where we're thinking of putting some of the
Oh,
transportation and that.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trey. We appreciate that. Okay, next up on our agenda, we have the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion by Board Member Lincoln. Do we have a second?
I second.
A second by Board Member Judkins. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that appears to pass unanimously. Next up, we have discussion items. We have many, many policies to discuss. First up, we have policy 7.101, the district calendar. Do we have staff presenting or do we have policy committee presenting for this tonight?
We're going to have staff.
Staff. Great, thank you. Dr. Bollinger, Mr. Hamblin, we would invite you to come and participate.
Do you want us to formally introduce ourselves? Or we good?
Yes, if you would formally introduce yourselves for the record, that would be fantastic.
Great. Dr. Amanda Bollinger, Deputy Superintendent of Lake Mountain School District.
Travis Hamblin, Assistant Superintendent, Student Services, Lake Mountain School District.
All right. We have a lot of policy to cover. And this is just the first of many, so you get used to seeing us every board meeting for a while. So here we go. This is quite the adventure. We are going to be bringing about 7 to 9 policies basically for a first reading every board meeting for several months, and just for the public's knowledge of how this is going to work. So this is going to be a first reading where you guys can discuss, have questions. We will take your feedback back to the policy committee to then bring a second draft to the next board meeting for a potential vote. If it's still not right, then we'll just keep working on it and taking it back and postpone it as many times as we need to get it correct. With that being said, if in the first reading, if there's no comments, there's no concerns, then on the second reading, then it can go on to a consent agenda. So you're not having to spend time discussing it. So that's basically how that process is going to work. Okay, so with that being said, we will start with the first policy, 7.101 district calendar. This is actually a revision of one of the very first policies that you guys actually adopted as a board. So it was originally called school calendar. So we have redone the numbering system. Do you guys want to see on there, or are you going to just go off of
I think
yours?
it's useful.
What's that?
Yeah, if we can.
Okay, it's true. So as I'm pulling this up, I'll just kind of talk you through what this is. So this is your original calendar policy that we've updated with the new numbering system that the policy team has created and shared out. So we have consolidated the policies. So Alpine District currently has about 251 policies. One of the things that this board has asked us to do as staff is to look at the policies that are required by code or law, and that's the ones we want to prioritize. There's a lot of processes and procedures that we do within a district. Not all of them require a policy. They can be done in standard operating procedures or handbooks or manuals, and we definitely want to make sure that we have access to our public, and that's a priority. So with that being said, we've created a plan so far to reduce that down to about 150 policies.
Wait, what was the first number?
251.
Yeah.
And then obviously when we have policies in, as laws change, we have to either update policies or sometimes add new policies. And so that will impact how we do our policies as well. So with that, we are going to, I can kind of show you how we've structured this. So how- Okay, as he's setting that up, I'll kind of explain what we've done. We've taken the policies and put them into 8 large categories. So our 1.00 is going to be our board governance. Our 2.000 is the board and superintendent relationship. The 3.000 is business operations. The 4.000 is going to be our personnel. The 5.000 is teaching and learning. 6.000 will be student services. 7.000 will be operational expectations, and the 8.000 is going to be community relations. And you may remember in your last board meeting, you did approve or adopt, I should say, we adopted the Alpine School District 4000 series policies, which is the personnel policies that was required by SB 188 to be adopted, and those will be in effect through the 27-28 school year. Next year, we'll work on updating those personnel policies. So this year, thank you so much. This year, we'll be working on all of the rest of the policies, except for those 4,000. So you'll see those come up next year, and that will give us an opportunity as well to work with our teachers and put those into effect and make sure that we get their input, which will be great. So we're going to start with the operational expectations, which is the 7.110. We've put them into subcategories. So this is the daily logistics. We're starting with the district calendar. Like we said, this is a policy that you guys had already adopted. It did change its name from school calendar to district calendar. So it is really the district calendar for all of the schools as well as for the district. You can see some of the changes that we've made here as well. One of the big changes in the definitions is originally you had a calendar committee definition. However, we have committees for lots of things across the district and lots of policies. So to help streamline that, we've added a community committee and advisory group definition, which means a temporary body established by the board or superintendent to provide input on a specific topic. So that's a definition that then can be used across the board. We do have an ongoing glossary that will help us keep those definitions the same. So they're not varied from policy to policy. We kind of saw that starting to happen with just the few policies we've been working on, is we want to make sure it's consistent, so that's helped. We've also updated the minimal day definition here, and as well as the superintendent definition. So I'll spare you the details of reading through every single change. I just want to kind of give you the broad overview of what we've changed in this policy. The other piece of the way that we're writing our policies is we've written them into provisions and into procedures. Provisions are basically why we're doing it, it basically gives you what your role is as a board to oversee, and then the procedures are more of the how we're going to do that. That's more of what the staff's going to implement. There could be also additional handbooks, like I said, or standard operating procedures that are separate from policy. In the way that we've set up the policy, if we do make changes to procedures or the ways that we're doing things as staff, we will still update them into the policy so the public knows and you're aware, and we'll bring those back to you in a consent agenda for your approval. So with that, a lot of these have stayed the same as far as the processes and procedures. We've also added in the effectiveness. So one of the roles as a board is to figure out how well we're doing things. Joylyn, Member Lincoln gave a great presentation on the how well versus how will, and so your role is to figure out how well are we doing that. So this effectiveness statement, as well as the evaluation standards, provides an opportunity for you to evaluate how that policy is being implemented. We will also have a specific date where the policy will be reviewed on a regular basis. So this one specifically will be reviewed when new calendars are approved. So making sure that the policy is still serving the district in what that looks like. Some policies, as you see as we move on, will have a different cycle on review, but we want to make sure we don't have a policy that's sitting here from 1978 or from 1982 that hasn't been touched. We want to make sure we're reviewing those to make sure we're serving our population. And then we do have this accountability and reporting portion where that's how, as staff or superintendency, will be reporting back to you on how frequently, on how the policy is going. Right. So with that, any questions, concerns, comments? I'll turn it back to you guys.
This is a discussion item, so do any board members have any feedback or pieces they'd like to bring forward regarding the policy 7.101 district calendar?
I like how you're putting in all the policies, the success criteria, what it looks like to be successful. I really like that. And I also like the glossary in each of the policy, but that they are the same across all policies. I really like all those things you're doing.
Quick question. Under minimal day, when it's saying distinct from early out or early start days, would that be early out or late start days? Or is it supposed to be early start?
Well, that's a great question. That might be an oversight.
It's under minimal day, and it says, a day where schools operate on a reduced schedule and all students are dismissed early, distinct from early out or early start days. I anticipate that reading meaning late start.
Yep, we will.
Oh.
Yep,
Okay.
it is supposed to say, yep, good catch. This is what happens when you look at policy for months, a month at a time, so thank you. That's why I'm bringing it to you. We'll make sure we address that.
Okay, seeing no other discussion, we can move on to policy 7.102, emergency closures, 2-hour delays.
Okay, thank you. So this is draft 1A of 7.102, emergency closures, 2-hour delays. This is actually a really unique policy because it's not necessarily required by code or law to have a policy on it. It is required by code to have a procedure. However, speaking in the policy committee, the team felt like because there's so many specific details to it and it's one of those procedures that the public is going to really want to know what those procedures are, we felt like it was the best thing to do to put that into a policy. So that's why this isn't a policy. It gives the definitions of what these pieces are in here. And we've addressed some of the concerns that we've already gotten feedback on, made sure that we're differentiating between that it's distance learning, not necessarily online, because students could take online classes, which would be separate from distance learning. So we tried to differentiate between those two. And the other piece of this is the time that we are allotted to make sure that we notify the public. It says 6 a.m. And we worked with transportation on this portion. There is a protocol where by 5 a.m. they have individuals, bus drivers out in certain locations because we are a smaller district. They won't have to be at so many locations. I mean, well, we are growing, so it will grow with time, right? But lots of locations where then they help determine, working with the director of operations, working with the transportation director, working with the superintendent, our director of communications, everybody working together to figure out what is the safest decision for our students. That decision should be made by 5:30, but then we need a little bit of time to make sure we get that out to the public. We will work on the lines of communication and put those on a website so parents know what TV stations or radio stations to be following to make sure that they know what that procedure is. We also could have a protocol that on our website we could put, you know, if it is a late start day or a 2-hour delay or whatever that ends up being, we can make sure that we publish that on the website as well. So we'll work on those pieces with staff, but this helps make it very clear on what the procedures are for the public. So this is, you'll notice here, there aren't provisions written in here because it's not required by law or by rule to have a policy, but it is the procedures.
Okay, do we have any board member discussion regarding policy 7.102, emergency closure, 2-hour delays?
In here, does it say that parent, for notification of parents when this happens? Is it parents go to the website? Are we sending out emails? Are we sending out, what? I didn't read it real quick. Maybe you just know off the top of your head.
Yeah, and that's the part that, because that is more procedural, that will be, like we were saying, written into probably on the website that shows here's the actual
Oh, okay.
procedures. But absolutely, anytime there is a change in the schedule, there would be communications out to parents, whatever that format is that this board decides as we move forward in the communications. Typically, there's, those email processes that automatically send out emails, and typically parents can also get notifications, either a text message, a phone call, or email. They get to choose typically depending on the system that's being used, but then also have those other routes. We're just basically going to inundate them with as much communication as we can and as early as possible. And I should have mentioned as well in this, there's two other things that might be of interest then to you. Is one is that if we know the night before, then by 10 o'clock we'll make the call. So parents aren't having to get up really early at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. and start watching the news. So that is one piece. If we already know that a huge storm's coming through, and then we can make that call the night before. The second thing is, you'll notice in 2.2, it says that parents and guardians maintain final discretion to make attendance decision based on localized safety conditions. So parents always have the right to choose to keep their children home if they do not feel like that's a safe place for their child to be during a storm or whatever emergency is happening.
Any other discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we can move on to policy 7.103, service and therapy animals.
Okay, thank you. So this is a policy 7.103, service animals and pets on district property. This is required not just by state law, but this is definitely covered under federal. So the federal government actually provides a lot of the guidance that is here. And we do reference all of those pieces of code and law and federal law that we'll have links to, and we'll work on that as staff to make sure that those are updated. But with this basically, it does, when we talk about the definitions of a service animal, I think that's important for individuals to see. The definition, and this is actually in law, any dog that is individually trained to do work or perform tasks directly related to the benefit of an individual with a disability, including physical, sensory, psychiatric, intellectual, or other mental disabilities. The provision of emotional support, comfort, companionship, or therapeutic benefits does not constitute work or tasks under this definition. So that's important for you as a board to understand the difference, that it does provide an opportunity for service animals, but not therapy animals under code and law. Then this basically goes through and outlines the rights of individuals with disabilities, what that process looks like, what information staff can ask, what can be required. And there's also provisions here for expectations of supervision. So individuals that do have a service animal have to have complete control of their animals. And then, yes, miniature horses are allowed under federal law as a service animal. So we did have that provision added in. And one of the pieces that we have a lot of questions about is that we do have a farm, and is that allowed when we say there's no animal class pets? There's a provision here, 7.1, it says permanent classroom pets are strictly prohibited except for curriculum and co-curriculum programs approved by the superintendent. So if they are provided part of that co-curricular or the curricular programs, then those animals would be allowed. There's also, if it's a temporary educational visit or for some specific piece in 7.2, there's also provision there for some administration to make sure that it is aligned with the curriculum, that it is safe, that the person that's bringing the animal, if it's a temporary educational purpose, that could be allowed in your policy. There is also, sometimes what happens is if you have a service animal, but you also have a student with an allergy, then they have rights as well. And so there are provisions in here that outline there's a process that the staff will work with both parties to make sure that we can find the best solution to meet the needs of all of the students that are involved to keep everybody safe. And then it outlines, again, the effectiveness evaluation standards, and then the review cycle for this would be every 5 years, or if there was a change in federal policy or code or state law, then we would obviously update this.
Okay, so we have discussion regarding policy 7.103, service and therapy animals.
I'm wondering why you singled out miniature horses. Of all the domesticated animals that there could be, why did miniature horses get their own category and not cats and not dogs? You know,
Yes,
is it by law?
it's outlined in federal law.
Okay.
Yes. I don't have a preference for just miniature horses, I promise.
I did have a question. The section 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 that talks specifically about school staff and asking of questions. One of my concerns, I guess, is as someone who has sometimes been delivered legal documents, one of the first questions they ask is, what is your policy and are you following it? Right? One of my concerns is that we will potentially have over 3,000 employees. And the way this reads is that any school staff, is how I'm reading it, any school staff can ask those questions, and then it then has to be appropriately documented. My concern is that the potential for that to go awry is pretty high. If you think about every aide, bus driver, there's a very long list of required training that employees have to go through every year. You know, you gotta love the bloodborne pathogens after a while. And I'm concerned that if we maintain where it says school staff, that potentially opens us up to litigation if it's not properly documented, if individuals are not properly trained, and considering that sometimes we do have turnover, it could be that someone inadvertently or not with ill intent asks a question that would be deemed inappropriate. So I'm wondering if, I think the evaluation standards say that it actually has to be, like 100% of admin have to be trained. And so I'm wondering if we can look at the terminology there and specifically say that admin are the ones who can ask the questions, document the questions, and maintain the written record so that there is a clarity. And maybe the training is just, if you have a question about a service animal, you direct it to as a staff member, you would direct it to the admin, and then the admin is the one who can ask the appropriate two questions. And so I'm just thinking to make sure we have some clear lines and guardrails, that would be my request, is that we change school staff to school administration.
Okay, yeah, we can absolutely do that.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
If, this is a maybe funny example, but it's a real question. If someone tries to bring like a miniature horse on a bus, can the bus driver then not ask the question?
No.
Okay. Is that a scenario that could possibly happen?
Well, generally, if a student's going to bring a service animal, it outlines the whole thing of they have to provide, a level of documentation. They have to notify the school within a certain amount of time. It should not be a scenario where a student shows up to a bus stop with a miniature horse and that this is the first time that the school is aware of it.
Okay.
But thank you for asking a serious question. Anyways.
I hate to put that out there in the universe.
Yeah, that's going to happen now. So I appreciate you putting that out into the universe. I do feel pretty strongly about this one just because.
Well, there's legal liability involved.
There's a legal liability associated with it if we're going to be responsible. And once again, our policy is seen as, are you following your policy and being compliant? I feel confident that we could say we have trained 100% of our administrators on this policy on an annual basis or whatever, and they are very clear about it. I would not necessarily feel confident that every person we hire from the top down that we deem a staff member, including sometimes we hire teenage students to do tech over the summer or to do custodial work. I would not necessarily feel confident that we could say in an evaluation standard 100% of our staff, but I do feel confident we could say 100% of our administrators.
Yeah, thank you for that. No, that's great. We can definitely address that. Just a point of clarification, would you like it to say school administrators or administrators? I'm just wondering in case there's district administrators that get involved in the process and support that.
I would say Yeah, I would just say administrator.
Okay.
I just want to, and I guess, once again, in the glossary thing, sometimes we have people on an administrative pay schedule. Are we saying everybody on an administrator pay schedule? Because that could be like the director of transportation or the director of operations or the director of technology, who might not necessarily be someone that I would assume would ask the questions either. So I'm going to turn that back to staff as far as I'm going to trust your judgment on that one. But I would just like a level of clarity so that we're not just saying every staff member gets trained
Yep, that's fair. We'll make sure that that's
and that
clarified.
they document it, because I don't think that's going to happen.
One thing I wanted to point out too is not only are we trying to be really concise and really transparent for the public that they have one place to look for the policy and the procedures, we're also attaching the forms. And so you'll notice at the bottom of this, we've got one form completed, it's attached. Because of the speed that we're having to work, sometimes forms are going to come a little bit later in the process. So then we're just holding a spot for them. Like on this one, it just says to be approved in the 26-27 school year. So sometime over the next year, that form will be approved and linked in without it coming back.
What's the mechanism when you update a form to make sure that the corrected form is linked to the policy so that you maintain that continuity for the public?
I think that form, it goes through the policy committee and then gets linked in.
I mean, that system that you're talking about building probably
Yes.
helps with this.
Yes, we have lots of processes and procedures to still flesh out as we add to our staff, more than 3 of us. But yes, we will work on that. And also one other thing to point out at the very bottom, there will be a policy history. I should have explained this at the very beginning of how we're doing our policies. So we'll have an adoption date, but an effective date. So once a policy is adopted, the adopted date could be the date of the board meeting, but the effectiveness date for the majority of these will not be till July 1st of 2027 for our actual district, which allows us some time and flexibility to make sure all of our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed in our policy.
Link your life.
Okay, there we go. We mentioned, could we possibly just mention the discussion we had in committee regarding the legal piece to it, having legal review all the policies at some point, if that's appropriate?
Yes, we do have a plan to make sure that we get legal feedback on all of our policies before they go live as well. So that will be part of the process as we flesh out all of the pieces.
Can I ask a question about licensing? I had to look up like the federal requirements and what you can ask and can't ask, and to help understand how the policy was crafted. We can ask for proof of like a municipal dog license. I think the policy mentions that we can ask them if they have one, but we don't actually ask them to prove evidence. You are asking in the policy for proof of evidence of current vaccinations and health record. Would it not be more consistent to ask for the documentation for the license as well?
Do you want me to take that? I did look into that, yes. Yes, so yes, we absolutely can, and I think the point that you're talking about is 2.2.4, where we used an affirmation of compliance with public health and local control requirements that could be changed from affirmation to proof, if that is the will of the board.
Well, if we're asking for proof on the vaccinations and other things, I think we do it for all of the required.
I think for like health and safety, making sure that they have the vaccinations is really important, which is why we wanted the proof there. The other, we weren't as concerned that we had the proof, because having that license doesn't create a safety issue for other students.
To add clarification, under ADA, it does say that service animals are subject to the same local licensing and vaccination requirements. So it is allowed under ADA, if we would like to
They're
make
lumped
that
together.
change. Yep.
Which is why I thought you just put them together in the same language. That's my suggestion. If you collectively want to leave it as is, I want to.
Are you trying to have
Not
one less
object.
line?
What's that?
One less line?
Yeah.
Okay, we can definitely address that.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion regarding policy 7.103, service and therapy animals? Okay, Seeing none, we will move on to policy 6.401, student school fees and waivers.
Oh, wait, I had one more.
Oh, sorry. Okay, just kidding. Go back.
I lost track of my notes.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
If I understand, correctly, you can remove permissions. You essentially apply to the administrator for permission to keep the service animal with you. That denial can happen. If the denial is issued, I expect there's legal liability in that process. There's also a provision for an appeal to the denial, if I read it correctly, and without specifying, the appeal and permanent denial is coming from the same person. So if I'm a parent and they revoked my access and I go through the formal appeal process, the same person giving the, removing the authorization is now reviewing the appeal. I think that's inherently problematic.
Yeah, so we could change that if that, I understand what you're saying, absolutely. We also want to make sure that somebody at a higher level maybe has some oversight onto that. So we
Yeah.
could change it to meet the same kind of requirement of who's approving that at the higher district level, if that works.
I think
better.
in the authorization, I'm not as worried. It's in the removal of authorization, in particular with the appeal process. For example, if an administrator, went through this process, went through the appeal, and district staff wasn't even aware, and the legal liability is coming down the road, I think the district would want to be at least made aware.
Yes. Would you like it to stay as school administrator with approval from district administration?
That would be fine.
Okay,
As long as there's that second set of eyes and awareness.
yeah, okay, yeah, absolutely, we will address that. Okay, I'm turning it over to Travis.
All right. Our first policy, school fees and waivers. This governs how school fees and waivers and fundraising and how student supplies are established and managed in the district with the objective that no student is excluded for any school-sponsored activity, fees, or inability to pay, and then also providing for transparency through this process. Let's see, so it talks about, a lot of it is governed by state board or by state rule and by code. So we're following all of that down through the line here. It talks about general fee restrictions and oversight that's done by the board. So the board would approve these every year. So at the bottom of this, you would see where the policy is actually reviewed annually as a part of that process of approving fee waivers and publishing that process. It also includes that it happens over 2 board meetings, so it provides ample opportunity for the public to weigh in on that. And it talks about, donations that are required and what can and can't be used with donations, how students are approved and what that looks like through the process. Talks about all the fees that elementaries can't charge and then all the stuff that secondary can. And so for example, elementary schools, K-6, basically no fees, but teachers can ask for supplies as long as it's optional, and that's made really clear. That's in the policy as well. But in general, in an elementary school, all supplies are given by the school. And then in the secondary school, fees are allowed for labs and for course-related activities. And students may be required to provide their own supplies in there. Sorry, I'm going off of a separate set of notes, so I'm not just scrolling all over the page. And then it also allows with overnight travel that it stipulates that with a fee waiver student, they can have up to 2 overnights, but anything beyond that has to be approved with a plan with the principal of like payment and working off and whatever. So that is in here as well, and a plan to do that. The form for all of that is here. It talks about making sure that things are equitable. There's a lot of stuff that, let's see, I wanted to bring up 15.2, which is where the person at the school receives the request for a fee waiver. And that is called the fee waiver administrator in this policy. So that could be the principal or principal's designee that looks at that paperwork that is provided to them. It outlines the process for doing that and basically what qualifies the student for a fee waiver or reduced fees. And it comes, and then there's a fee form that they have to use, and that comes from the state as well. So that's a standard form, so that we're using standard criteria across the board on how they are approved for that. And then there are certain families who automatically, certain situations that automatically are approved, and you can see that in 15.222 and 223. And then, of course, everything is under the FERPA umbrella, so for privacy. And let's see, this one, that's, yeah, any questions?
You got the easy ones.
Yeah, when it says 15 point whatever, that does feel super easy.
15.3.2.
No, he got a lot of the big, heavy ones, so we started right from the start, so. Flop.
But fortunately, a lot of it, we do need to spell some of the steps out because we need to make sure that everybody's doing the exact same process and that it's not any, we're not, we're just treating everything equally in that sense. But fortunately, most all of it is governed by state law. So it's just a matter of making sure that we're tracking and following the process throughout.
Travis, I do have one question. I think the state has come out and said we need to figure out what the cap is on fee waivers. Are we anticipating that that's something that'll be added to the this actual policy? Do we anticipate that'll be part of the fee schedule that gets updated annually?
Part of the fee schedule that's updated annually.
Perfect.
That's likely to change frequently, so yeah.
Could we include a provision that links to there?
Sure,
Essentially, the district, the board can impose a cap. You'll find that outlined in whatever, and then.
Oh, yeah, add a line to that, sure, you
It's not
bet.
actually mentioned
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah, I think it's in number 1, I think, but I didn't link it to the actual policy, or the code. We can do that, for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
One thing I wanted to point out too on this policy, because it is a long one, that the numbering system is consistent throughout the whole policy. So you do policy provisions and then procedures, and the numbers just continue on instead of starting over like you might see in some documents. And that's for ease of use for our community, our administrative, our teachers. And so I just wanted to point out that that isn't an accident, that that's very intentional for ease of use.
I have a couple, few, sorry. You reference, the policy references Utah Code 26B. I think it's actually a typo.
Up at the top.
26B, I ended up looking it up because it stood out to me. It's like concussion protocol. It's probably just a. Anyway, I can send you the notes later. In fact, I'll send you some of my feedback in an email. Is that?
Yeah, that's great. That would be fantastic.
Okay. In one section, 6.5, and another section, 15.1.1, it talks about the limitation to the 2 trips thing that you mentioned. One says you may apply for a second trip, and the other says no more than 2 trips. I think it's either confusing or it's actually contradictory. The language says, as it currently stands, that you can have a waiver for a first trip, but a second trip requires the additional application.
All right, thank you. Good catch, yeah. We'll make that change.
What was the intent, by the way? Is it one trip?
The
with
code is, the
second?
code is 2 trips.
Yeah, it's the 2 trips, yeah, so we'll have to
okay.
clarify that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that was 6.5 and 50, and again, I'll send you the notes. In 15.2.2.1, could you reference the documentation required for that?
Yep,
That's a sticky one, and it comes with like, state and federal requirements, so that's, okay. I have heard, I don't know if this is urban myth or not, but the idea that a district can, unless the policy is specific to preclude, that a district ends up paying for the travel of family members or accompanying, people that accompany the student on a trip.
so that will come up in one of our future policies that we're working on with overnight travel and field trips.
Okay.
And
And specifically with the fee waiver, I wondered if it's actually addressed here as part of a limitation.
not a part of the fee waiver part, but that is addressed in the other policy that will come hopefully next time
Okay,
as a first reading.
thank you. Similar to my comment to the last policy, the appeals process. It doesn't actually say who the appeal goes to or what the process.
I think it goes to the fee waiver administrator or the school principal. Let's see, let me get that part. The fee waiver administrator within 10 days of receiving the notice. So that would be the person that processed it at the school.
Okay. I think maybe I misunderstood that part then. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it talks about who to apply to, but doesn't actually say how to apply for the appeal, or is it written, is it in person? Is it a
So the
form?
denial must be submitted to the fee waiver. And so do we need to add written, saying, a written appeal?
I suspect.
Okay.
Yeah, I
All right.
think in this situation, for legal purposes, you'd want the paper trail of the appeal. And possibly as like the suggestion for a denial of an appeal, to have the similar language to the other policy, that it's with the awareness of or communication to a district supervisor or somebody. Like in a similar situation, if the parent is going through the process of applying, appealing, and, advocating, that someone is aware.
Okay. Great.
Does the confidentiality requirements, it mentions that the student should not be identified, and there's state law requiring that.
What number are you on?
Where am I?
Sorry.
Sorry. It got a little late when I was doing the final review. That one I'll send to you separate.
Okay. Excellent.
Okay, and then I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other discussion regarding policy 6.401, student school fees and waivers? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the next one, policy 6.402, school clubs.
Another small one. Where my phone is. All right, so this is about our curricular and non-curricular clubs, curriculum clubs, what constitutes those, and how they're to be operated. We have in the procedures about the application process, how they take care of applying to become a club. It talks about how they stay in good standing. They have to have a constitution. that outlines what they are about and how they're going to manage things, and how they maintain status. It also, one of the more important things is it establishes up front that we are and I'm not seeing the words immediately, but we are a limited open forum so that can be closed at any time should we decide to do that, meaning that if there is a non-curricular club that you choose that you want to just close down non-curricular clubs, you could do that as a board. Also, throughout this, it talks about how they're authorized, how they get permission, how it's denied, and that there is an appeal process that's built into this, and a review of all of that, a requirement throughout all of it for parent permission to happen before a student can even participate in an extracurricular club. Talks about facility use for those different clubs and the different types of clubs. Yeah, any questions?
Can you help clarify the difference between a curriculum club and a non-curricular club?
Yeah, so a curricular club or a curriculum club is directly tied to a class or a part of a class. So whether it's, well, think of like marching band, and then they have like, they go do, that's a really bad example actually, but yeah, so like if you had a physics class, but they had a physics club, that was something that they participate in as a part of that class, it becomes curricular. Whereas non-curriculum would be young Sebastian fans, or whatever the case may be. So,
Chess.
yeah, sorry, I was referencing the earlier miniature horse thing. So with Parks and Rec. So
Caught it.
I was trying to figure that out really quick on the fly. It wasn't so smooth, but there you go.
Okay, so in non-curricular clubs, the definition is that it's not sponsored or endorsed by the school?
Yeah, so it has to have a faculty supervisor. There always has to be a supervisor that's that. This is the definition, a student-initiated group that may be authorized and allowed to use school facilities during non-instructional time by the school administrator in accordance with provisions of this policy.
So supervised by, but not sponsored?
Correct, yeah, they just they're making sure they're safe and not doing things that they shouldn't.
Yeah.
And so but it's student-sponsored.
I think my question then for clarification is then in the definition of club, I think which is the umbrella to the two, it says faculty-sponsored organization. If one is sponsored by the school and one isn't,
Oh, yeah.
parent has to reflect.
I
the
did need to
language.
remove that definition. Yeah, thank you.
Someone else take a turn. Oh, I have one more.
Go ahead.
Okay. Same story, appeals. Right, I think there's a continuity there that we could apply. I suspect it's gonna be a best practice that we're aware of those conditions, can supervise and handle them appropriately.
So I have a question on that.
Yeah.
Would you like to see, as we move forward, like the appeals process consistent over most policies and become like a definition that's always included?
Be the good
Or
idea.
would you rather see it as a separate policy, like a grievance policy? Or would you like, and again, I'm just brainstorming because we're seeing it now 3 times and we've got a long way to go.
Yeah, it's true.
Or is it policy specific?
Why don't I let you guys take that back
Okay.
to the policy committee and then recommend whatever you think. I am looking for continuity and clear communication through the policy to the public, but I don't know that I have strong feelings right now.
Okay.
I was going to ask the same question. I was going to ask, are we going to need an appeals policy per se?
Yeah.
Because there's probably going to be quite a few other things that would come up.
Yeah,
So
could be.
I had the same thought, so, okay.
A question I have is, under, just above definitions, we have a category called junior high and middle school clubs, but we don't have any junior highs in our district. We just have middle school, so I'm wondering why the junior high wording. I don't know that we plan to do any junior highs. It seems like we always name them middle school, but maybe you have a reason.
The reason was just if we ever chose to do that, we didn't have to change the language of policy, but it's easy enough to change just to middle school.
So as a committee, we've been trying to be consistent, and I don't know if we've gotten the policies yet, but there were some policies where we had like elementary listed, we had like middle school and secondary, and I was kind of asking the committee that we would just say elementary or secondary, depending on if our numbers, if we decide to change grade levels or whatever, that we can be consistent. I wonder if this is another example where we can be consistent with that.
But there
It's
are
different
some times where your middle school, by a code, is allowed different things versus your high school.
That's true.
So, and then, in another, across the state, there are several districts that have both a middle school and a junior high in them, just depending on the time and the traditions of what it was named. So I think we kind of grabbed both, just because that terminology may ebb and flow over time, and then we wouldn't have to come back and change a whole bunch of policies if we flexed one way or the other.
For me, it just made it sound like we were taking a template and throwing it in and not taking into consideration just our area, and we only have middle school, so that's why it raised a concern in my mind.
Okay.
But whatever, it's not a deal breaker for me.
Oh, as a general sense, this one has procedures, but no provisions. Is there flexibility based on the nature of the policy?
Yeah,
like
and
Wes?
some of the governance ones will have provisions and no procedures.
Right.
So you're gonna
It appeals
see,
to us, it applies to us.
yeah, you're gonna see some ebb and flow, and that was one thing we really struggled with at the beginning. Do we name them the same? And we chose not to do like provisions / procedures, because then you blur the accountability lines.
Right.
So some policies will just have a little bit different, and it's still the same structure, but if there isn't a need for a policy provision, then it will just be the procedures. But
Since-
again, it provides that continuity to the community, that they have a one place to look.
Yeah, I'm still digesting all these terms and terminologies. If the board isn't responsible for the procedures and a policy doesn't have provisions, does it need to be a policy?
There may be times, and I think this is a good example, when if there's an issue with it, our public comes to us. And then also on the accountability, if the board wants to have some accountability in the clubs, then by having it structured this way, then we have that accountability and it comes before the board. You're gonna see that also in times when sometimes our legislators really say you have to have a policy on this, but it really should just be a procedure. And so it's one of those lines where in an ideal policy governance world, you wouldn't see that blur. But that's not the world we live in until we train all of our legislators on how policies should work.
It also occurs to me in this policy, now that we're having this conversation, I could easily move where it talks about at the very top, reservation of right to close the forum and the middle junior high clubs and high school. We could move that down to the provision of the policy versus keep it up in the opening statement.
I was
That'd be
gonna
a
ask the same.
slick move. That way there's that definition and difference.
It really is the only piece that the board would enact.
Yeah.
If we were to choose to close
Yeah,
the forum or
yeah.
whatever like.
So
And-
that's an easy change.
And the policy statement is owned by the board.
Right.
So.
Okay, that's good.
Do we have any other discussion on policy 6.402 school clubs? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to policy 6.403 extracurricular activity and eligibility.
All right, let's get into it. So this is about extracurricular activities, and a lot of it is about expectations for participation. Much of it does come from UHSAA rule in that sense. As we go down, you'll notice that there are a couple things that are really defined out, and one of them in this particular case is bullying, because that's a particular issue under this policy that we need to address. So that just as we go down through this, there'll be some mentions to that and references to behavior and all of those things. And then as we go in, it also hazing is a very large definition in this policy, because that's something that in this sense with activities and extracurricular, that's a place that tends to happen, and so that has to be defined really well. Scrolling down, you'll notice all the different policies here that are needing to be approved that will be linked in this. So this one's got a fair amount of policies that it relies on. One of them at the end of that list is a student service manual, so you'll see that come up a lot in future policies where it's referencing that manual, and that will be filled out by July 1st. Well, before then, it's got to, anyways, got to be ready, so it'll be ready. Talks about student eligibility, student conduct. This one is a really important one, and it's something that I did not see this in the prior policies in Alpine, but it is required. Any student charged with any verified felony shall be suspended from participating in any school district-sponsored extracurricular activity or club. Of course, if that is acquitted or dropped, then that goes away. But if not, then it's 180 days from the time that the school finds out about it, not from the date. It is not backdated from when the incident occurred, but from the date that the school finds out about that. And it's either 180 days or the end of the school year, whichever is on that particular piece. That's a new big one that I didn't see in the other policy. It may have been there, but I made sure it was here in this one. Talks about that students need to be behave code of conduct. They need to follow that. That they're doing that. It talks about coaches and advisors and their responsibility to also act appropriately because they are representing the school and school district. Skipping past the school conduct, or the student conduct, there's a lot there. And then, let's see, coaches and the advisors need to, again, adhere to the policy, also keeping appropriate relationships and keeping things separate that way. Let's see, exemplary role models, what they can and can't, like not drinking on school trips and alcohol, that is, on trips, and not doing illegal things on school trips and those sort of things. Talks about the requirement to meet with students and go over the requirements every year, parents and students, and providing that notice so that they know what bullying is, what hazing, harassment, and all those things are, what are not appropriate to be doing. They have to have an activity disclosure statement when they meet with parents, and then that has to be signed off. And this one, yeah. Any questions?
I just had a quick comment on this one. You referenced, and just for awareness, the other policies or guidelines. Policies aren't always in a vacuum. Oftentimes they work together. And by listing them this way, we can connect them and not have them start to conflict with each other. It really provides a tool and a way for the committee and the board and staff to understand the interaction without having them be 20-page long policies. The other thing, though, we're trying to bring policies in groups. We can't wait till the end, or else next May we're going to find ourselves with a 3-week-long board meeting, and that seems a lot. So we do have to kind of somewhat bring them forward.
Up under definitions, the third one down is bullying. And it says, just go up where it says student bullying and staff bullying. And then you go down and it's staff is first and student is second.
Yes,
If you
good
could
catch.
just switch one of them.
Yes, no,
so
that's
they
good
match.
catch, yeah, good catch. I'm a little embarrassed I didn't catch that one, to be honest, so I'll get that fixed.
This policy statement, my general feedback is it reads a little negative. And so two things. I think we claim a little too much. I think there's a way to make this a little more concise. And then it reads a little negative. I can play with a draft and submit as an alternative, but, you know, I'm not suggesting that you have to take that language. But I do think there's a way to tweak the verbiage a little. It's wordsmithing, and so I don't want to do it here. But yeah, to say what we need it to say without, and focus on the positive side. Does that make sense?
No, it makes a lot of sense. And sometimes you just get writing and into the meat of it and you lose track of that. So that's a good comment.
Yeah,
I'll
and
apologize.
there's one or two places where it's actually a little harsh and like, oh, that's strong. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you bet. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to close the discussion, but if you're going to
No, I'm gonna keep going. I have a few on this. Sorry.
have at it.
All right, abusive conduct. The section that talks about abusive conduct.
The definition or down below?
Really either.
Okay,
It's not directional. Like, it's not staff, student, or student. It's a non-directional potential. I don't think it reads that way. I can't remember which one. Yeah, physical conduct of a parent or student directed towards a school employee.
yeah,
This would be under definitions.
yeah.
I think it's not quite inclusive enough to apply in this specific, looking for those general statements that feature up into the glossary. It's similar in the definition on the other part in the bullying, related to being an employee acting towards students. But really bullying in that context amongst adults is often adult to adult. So there's just some directionality in those two sets of definitions that I think we could look at. Help me understand, I think there's advisor and sponsor, and we saw it in the club policy, and they're used not interchangeably. But then in this section of policy, it talks about advisor and doesn't actually mention sponsor. And then in another section, it talks about advisor or volunteer. And I think there's potential, maybe I'm mixing it up with the next policy. We could include advisor, sponsor, and volunteer as it relates to a consistent definition. Does that make sense?
I wonder if sponsor would apply to extracurricular activities, though. That's more of an advisor coach situation versus a sponsor. Am I
Yeah, I think-
misunderstanding that?
Well, in the non-curricular club, did I say that right? The non-curricular club, it specifies faculty sponsor as not an advisor, and in the way it was defined.
I think why we drifted from that, and I'm not saying right or wrong, because we're gonna circle back, is extracurricular is usually our stuff with UHSA, and it's organized
Yes.
there.
Yep.
Where a non-curricular club, like the chess club, it exists usually in an isolation. And so I think as we approached the extracurricular, we looked at the umbrella of that UHSA, those type of activities. So as we go back and relook at it, we can look into that. And I think that's really one of my favorite parts about having these discussions is because when you write policy, you get in, and then sometimes you start to, I don't know, you start to think it says something and then it doesn't because you've read it so many times. So thank you for that,
Yeah.
that connection.
And whether we do sponsor and/or advisor, I don't really care. I do think it needs to include volunteer, because it says staff, faculty, or employee, or advisor. And then in one it mentions and in another doesn't. That's actually, we see that a lot in those, you mentioned like a marching band or whatever. It wouldn't happen without all those parent volunteers that help. Hazing's definition is insane.
Yes.
Can it not be a separate policy, a separate thing that we can link to, a statewide definition that we can hyperlink, a brief
So-
synopsis? It's crazy.
Usually, it does live in its own, but in this instance, the philosophy of not is the place you see it the most is here in some of your sports stuff. So again, reiterating it, and it's a reiteration of straight state code, again, just reinforces that this is not acceptable.
There is a separate policy that will be coming that's bullying, cyberbullying, hazing, harassment, violence, and
But we
discrimination.
find that
Yeah.
people throw the terms around so
Yeah.
open that in this case, we really wanted to make sure that
Okay.
we
So
were
it was
specific.
very intentional.
It was very intentional.
Okay, I understand.
If I could add to that as well, is we did have a discussion about possibly, there are some districts that have a definition policy where everything's listed in that policy, and then instead of having them listed in every policy, it just says as referenced in this policy. However, because our focus was on making sure
Readable.
that it's readable, that they only go to one place, it's not only that if you change, every time you change a definition, you're having to bring that original policy back with the definition. So you would see that almost monthly.
Yeah.
So that was another reason.
Okay. Well, knowing that then, in the hazing definition, listed amongst the 50 things is calisthenics. I don't think that's hazing. It's just a body weight exercise.
It depends on its
Can be.
usage, it can
Well,
be.
anything can be.
But it's one that's actually is called out in code.
It would definitely need to be clarified as like extreme form of forced calisthenics. It just says calisthenics. So
Yeah.
that's like saying aerobics is
And again, sometimes
which you may feel about.
sometimes on these really big ones, we just grab the state language and probably somewhere, sometime, somebody's
Someone-
kid had to do
Yep.
too many jumping jacks, and now we have
Okay, then I
a
request we
policy.
define extreme forms of abusive calisthenics. Yeah. It does not mention, so it defers to UHSAA rules for eligibility requirements, right? In particular with grades and attendance, well, grades specifically. No more than one failing grade, no lower than a 2.0, for example. For the purpose of two things. So for the purposes of readability to the public, if they're going here to read it, should we take a couple of those big pieces and actually drop it here so they don't have to go and reference? That's our standard, that
We could do
for
it.
eligibility and extracurricular activities, you have to have a 2.0 and no more than one failing grade. Now, that's this is my second point. UHSAA rules apply to only part of the extracurricular activities. And so by deferring to them for the ones that it relates to, we're actually saying that there are no grade or passing requirements for those other types of activities. I don't think that's our intention.
I think we can address that.
Yeah, the other thing that we'll have to consider as well is there are some coaches that actually create a higher standard. And so that's one of the things that you'll have to decide as a board. If you put it in policy and you have a coach that decides to be higher, then you would also maybe want to consider adding in a line that allows that if that's what you would want to have happen. So just
I think,
consider that.
I would love to see us spell out some minimum requirements that probably mirrors UHSAA requirements, and specific language that says this particular program can adopt a higher standard as a,
The other part to consider, if you're going to be requiring grade reporting, I understand the question,
yep,
is it's also putting a specific requirement on teachers on how often they need a grade. Now, I know there are expectations, but in terms of like how often they have to update grade books. So we did have a discussion about this
Yeah.
for a different policy, and so we kind of floated that around back and forth with, yes, we want high expectations for the students, but at what cost are we putting more mandates on the teachers? So it's kind of a balance piece. Like, I could entertain it, but it was a discussion we were having in terms of the balance. So
Yeah.
just something to think of there, like how to make it high expectations. We want you to have good grades. We want you to be participating in your activities in classes,
that's fair.
but the teacher piece too. So
Sure.
we're trying to look at the full circle. That's just to give you perspective, because like I completely
Yep.
agree, we need high expectations, but what requirements are we asking for?
Yeah. So I'm not gonna pull a punch here. The way to get around this is just don't pull a report. And I know that happens.
Did you just say that out loud?
I did. So if, and I don't want to extrapolate to athletics, so please, forgive me. If a coach doesn't want to lose a player, you just don't pull the report. And I know that happens.
And I would want to actually give a flip perspective too. If we allow people to set a higher standard, they may be intentionally trying to bench a student by having the higher standard. So there was a lot of struggle on that one.
This is a tough one, I know.
And I think it's good for the public to see the deliberation
Yeah.
of what that looks like.
And I don't know that we need in policy by board, need to say at least twice a quarter. Extracurricular we do. Twice a quarter, extracurricular faculty sponsors of, and advisors of extracurricular clubs and activities must pull grade and failing reports twice a quarter, 5 times a quarter. I don't know what the number is. But if we're setting a standard, I
Maybe,
do expect that there's some reporting or check against it.
maybe this is a great opportunity to have a conversation with a couple principals and say, like, if we're going to pull twice during a quarter, maybe we specify on the 3rd week and the 8th week so that all of the faculty is aware that grades will be pulled then.
Look,
So
and that-
like
and-
we can,
Yes,
But
and
I think-
this gets really messy in particular. There are teachers who start at 0. So if we dictate how often you pull grades as eligibility to play or participate, and teachers start at 0, you just dropped half the student body.
so I think it's worth a conversation and having that conversation with some of our principals and getting some feedback, because I think that we can defend the space on lots of different philosophies here. But the end goal is we want high expectations.
Can you weigh in?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you. Yeah, if you look at High School Activity Association requirements, they use the official grades for the quarter as the cutoff. So when you say it has to be pulled so many times a quarter, the official Utah High School Activity Association rule is the quarter grade. So that's the reporting period. So when we talk about pulling grades, whatever, then that is already an expectation for teachers to have grades updated by then. That is the hard cutoff date for eligibility.
Could that also be midterm? Is midterm, so the requirement for the USHA is
Is just the quarter. At the conclusion of the official,
required to have grades. As a parent, I would love my child's teachers to be upgraded with grades as soon as they physically can, but I know there's lots of
Right.
things that go on.
yeah.
But I wonder if we were talking about a second time, I know from a school perspective, they usually have to have midterms in too. So if you're looking at another time, that's just a thought, just throwing out ideas, like,
It sounds problematic. Look, it was my suggestion, but it sounds like it would cause
Yeah,
problems.
it's, and when you talk about the fourth quarter, or the 4 quarters, I mean, you have it's usually the 4th quarter that then they're using for the fall sports, because they haven't had a school period yet. So whatever their grades were from the last quarter is what's used for eligibility, because we already have kids playing football right now, and their eligibility was based off of their last 4th
I
quarter.
mean, I don't want to make it overly onerous. And yet, one of our core values as a district is accountability. So if you failed a bunch of classes and your grades are stinky, that's,
Well, and I think though, that's already being caught, that when you fail the classes and they pull the quarter grades, then you're sitting out. And I've seen athletes sit out.
yeah.
There are some school LEAs that do choose to put in midterm requirements or other eligibility checks and will put kids on suspension until their grades come up. So that is something to consider as a board, if that's something you
It's
want to.
actually really interesting. If we gave the faculty advisor or sponsor the flexibility to do a correction plan, it may be an opportunity to infuse some additional aid, help, coaching, so they don't fail at the end of the quarter. I could see that as actually a really positive thing rather than punitive. In particular, if the suspension is not mandated, but it can be suspended, they have to pull the report and see, you're failing 5 classes. Well, let's get some help. What's going on? And you can continue to play, but we're going to work with you. Like that's a really, I don't know, an upside.
I like that idea, having worked with students that were devastated because they aren't in the sport anymore due to something that was going on, where they
Yeah.
might have been better or been served better with more help, with awareness of the situation.
I know.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
So with that philosophy, would it be allowing any coach at any level to be able to do that at their own desire? Like any coach could decide, any head coach could decide to do that, or activities advisor could decide to do that regardless of what the rest of the coaches at that school were doing.
Yeah, I think so. I'm aware of a extracurriculars advisor who pulls at random and tells the kids as such, and then works with them accordingly. It's how to, my own kid had benefited from that process because he was put on notice, and it was a wake-up call during the quarter at, 3 weeks in instead of 6 weeks in or whatever, and it was kind of cool.
So we would want also, in my way of thinking, a language that allows, that's not as punitive, right? It's more intervention-based and prevention-based versus punishment-based, right?
That would be the goal. Okay. The required suspension is related to the federal felony charge. Yes?
Federal, state, it can be a state charge as well.
Oh, so,
For
okay, so
felony, any
correct, yeah.
felony.
So any felony
Yeah.
requires immediate suspension. There is some language that I'm a little concerned about. The person issuing the mandatory suspension, there's some language about verification. It gives them a requirement to suspend a student or athlete immediately, but then they have up to 20 days to verify. If there was an accusation that they were become aware of, and it wasn't real, and the suspension is by policy required immediately, and then it took them 2 or 3 weeks to verify, it's an edge case. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, that's why we added the word verify, because if somebody just made an allegation, we didn't want to just take a word.
Yeah.
So kind of the process we saw in our heads of that verification was that if somebody alleges that somebody's been charged with a felony, that we would have our SRO go and investigate that if that felony had in fact been charged. And again, it's not a convicted according to state code, it's a charged.
My experience has been that most SROs are the ones that let the schools know that that's happened. Yeah, it's,
So in practice, this isn't really an issue.
it's, even when a student reports it, they'll go and report it to the administration, and then they will go to the SRO, verify.
Right.
And thus the word verify.
Yeah, makes sense. Is 20 days too long then, since that feedback is right there and immediate?
I don't know that 20 days is too long, but we certainly could shorten it. Sometimes, given the situation and what's happening, and getting a hold of parents and getting a hold of the right people can be sometimes problematic, but we certainly can shorten it. That's your desire.
Do you want, no, it's fine. Do you want to include any language that documents what a verification is? Is it a official law enforcement notification? Is it court records? Or do we leave it intentionally ambiguous?
I would leave it intentionally
Okay.
vague in that sense, yeah.
There's a couple of references that I think as you develop the policy, end up just breaking from one another. I'll send those to you. It says reference this above, and then it doesn't exist because it got versioned. This is a long one.
We've been
Oh,
editing
the
a lot.
numbers, yeah.
Numbers, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll send those to you. Okay, in the success, what are we calling it? Validation of success or the reporting success or efficacy section?
Evaluation.
What?
Evaluation.
Evaluation, okay.
Effectiveness and
100%, yes, 100% of students are conducting themselves. I think we will not be effective. It says if 100% of students are conducting themselves appropriately, blah, blah, blah. There's no way we get 100% of students always conducting appropriately.
But also too,
Of eligible students, oh, sorry.
Well,
so, and like on the next one, 100% of the cases are handled appropriate. That's what the goal should be. So it's not that 100% of our students aren't bullying. It's 100% of the time when there is an issue, we handle it appropriately.
yes,
And-
that clarifies it. We should update the language. Yeah. We will be sorely disappointed.
Yeah, but we're looking to make sure that it's the policy that we're following.
Yeah, there's two sections there. It's student conduct, threshold of being 100% of students conducting, and then 100% of reports. But you can actually investigate 100% of, well, let me be specific.
We can,
100% of bullying, harassment, hazing, or gender violence is reported. You can actually expect a threshold if you can't investigate something you're not aware of, right?
Oh,
So we could modify that one to say 100% of reported cases, similar to the other language, were investigated and followed through and whatever. But I think those are the two pieces that, I get the intent. I'm sorry, guys.
and again, if a student reports something, we want that 100% it was followed up on and investigated, that a kid isn't just left going, this is happening to me and nobody cares.
You'll notice on this particular policy as well, it's on the other ones, the review cycle is at least every 5 years, because it occurred to me that everything was gonna be 5 years.
Smart.
So,
Okay, my last of my long list is that 3.4 and 3.9 talk about the action after a report for suspension. One says immediate, one says 48 hours. I think we just want to be consistent between the two.
what number?
3.4 and 3.9.
there's not a 3-4.
1, 3, 1.
There's a 3 and a 3.1.
We'll double check that version.
You're right. My numbers got messed up too. Crazy.
Which section are you in?
Let me look for it. 7.9, felony offense against property within 48 hours, human resources, just a requirement for reporting. And maybe this is actually related to another requirement that's specific, and if that's the case, then
The 48, yeah, this is required by the state as well, that anybody that's an educator that has a violation has to report it within specified time.
okay, so it's specified by code.
Yeah.
The other one's immediate because that's our expectation, and this one's specified with 48 hours
Yeah.
because law. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I'm sure.
Okay, is there any other discussion regarding policy 6.403, extracurricular activity and eligibility? Okay, I think we're moving on from this one.
It'll be back.
Yeah, it'll be back. Okay, the last policy we're discussing today, policy 6.405, student image use and media.
This is about how to and how not to use student images and when to and when not to, and also for any school staff that takes a picture of a student, the protocols for using that particular imagery and how to handle that. This one, as we go down and look at it here, so it says how you can use it in any of the recordings. You've got to have parent permission for doing those kind of things. It also addresses working with the news media, that school employees, just general employees, are the voice of the school district. Proper notification through your principal and up through the district administration for that. It talks about directory information that is there. What we consider directory information, which is information that is shared like in a yearbook or what we share with recruiters for the military and that sort of thing. Talks about all the parent rights for that, obviously under FERPA, that has to be protected at all times, and that can be opted out of or into at any point during the school year with a parent. And that even if they've opted into it, if they're going to go through and do videos or pictures in a classroom, that it's a notification to parents as well, that there's some, that has to get some approval there. And then the employees shall not keep images on their phones. They have to move to like a district drive or something like that for the classroom. No posting of student pictures on social media, that sort of thing, to protect students' images and their personally identifiable information. It usually only takes 2 to 3 connecting things that could make things kind of sticky for students. So we want to make sure that we're protecting them at all costs. And then it talks about media relations, about if the media shows up, what to do, and what they are not allowed to do, and who the super or the principal needs to contact and work with. Part of that if the media shows up.
Okay, any discussion regarding this one? Policy 6.405, student image use in media.
So if a teacher takes pictures of their class doing field day or something, and the parents say it's okay to put it on social media, can they put it on social media?
Yeah, there's a
In
form for
writing?
permission that they have to do that, yep. It just needs to be in writing. We need to protect students. Just like last night, the media was taking, they had students there, they had the parent that was there, they got the permission from the parent in order to enter their image out there. Same with us. We just need permission. We just don't want to be taking pictures of students and sharing that where we feel it's necessary.
On 3.1.5, where it just says, retain student images on personal devices no longer than necessary to transfer them. Do we need something a little more specific in terms of a timeline? I mean, sometimes my ADHD brain thinks that, no longer than necessary could be a couple of weeks or a month, whereas, that just is pretty ambiguous, so.
Yeah, I wrote it that way because I was thinking about people on overnight trips or extended trips.
Sure.
Or they're in some kind of tournament. If we were to put a timeline on that, it would have to just be considerate of that. And I didn't want to just impose a date without having the board vet what that might look like. Because longer than necessary is something that you can kind of define as an administrator, like, well, you got back from your trip last week, so why, that's too long, right? Versus if we give it like 10 days, well, that would apply for anything even local, or at the school, which reasonable, if it happens that day, is within 24 hours, right? Versus a specific day or hour timeline. But that's the why I added the way I did, but I'm happy to change whatever the board would like.
John Fillings?
So if a parent says, I don't care if the teacher takes my kid's picture, they can keep it on their phone?
Only no longer necessary than to upload it to a district drive.
So if we were to see a parent have a memory on their Facebook from 3 years ago, remember this class, whatever, that would be in violation of this policy because they kept that picture 3 years on their phone. I mean, it might come up in their history, but
If the staff did, not the parent.
if the staff, so it needs to be taken off the phone and put on social media, and a memory could come up if they wanted.
Not so, they can't put student images on social media.
If the parents say they can.
So the parents could put it on social media. Sorry, I misunderstood your question.
Yeah.
So up above, it specifically says that staff shall not use the images on social media. One of the real dangers about that, as we might imagine, is that once you put it on the internet, it's never gone and it never goes away.
Yeah.
And you can't control where it goes, to whom it goes, and any kind of AI tool that may be used to do something with it. So we don't want our staff to be putting any pictures on social media of students at all. The back of their heads, that sort of thing, that's a little bit different if it's in a non-general, non-specific manner. But to keep a student safe, it is my opinion that no social media of students should be posted.
I think that's going to be a big change from Alpine. Is Alpine's, maybe Vicki knows, does anybody, Julie or Joylyn?
So,
We have teachers that put pictures on social media all the time.
and
And
they're
either they're
invi-
breaking code or this is going to be a big change for them.
they're violating policy,
Okay.
and we've had discussion, or
Okay.
admin has had discussions with teachers that
Okay.
have done that.
That just made me think we have schools that, well, they usually post from school events. School events are different, correct? Because I'm just thinking, like, schools have accounts and they post, like Cedar Valley will post, like, from the pep rally or whatever, but an event is
Events
different.
are generally like, it's a
Public.
district, it's someone who's authorized to post specifically for that. It's not just like a random teacher posting on their personal account. It is someone who's like essentially a district level or district approved official posting on a district account or a school account.
So is that clarified on what we have then?
Yeah, it
That would
talks
still-
about- it talks
okay.
about the
She
superintendent or
brought
their
that up and
des-
it made me think, I was like, so that would be like the designee, if someone at the building is doing the social media for the school, that, okay.
So it says
But
like
your
a-
question made me think, wait, do we have, okay.
in like
and typical-
4.1, it says only district employees or persons authorized by the superintendent designee may publish student photographs or recordings through official district communication channels. So like, yeah, they're allowed to do that, but it's, you know, yeah.
It just made me think when she asked that question, was like, oh, wait, okay, thank you.
Typically, those areas as well, there's no expectation of privacy in those particular situations. So they're more of a public setting in that sense, like a cafeteria.
Yeah, and obviously things like school plays, football games, there's an expectation that those are public and not, and even if it's like you had to go buy a ticket to watch a school play or a school dance event, that, yeah, that's assumed to be public access.
What about a PTA event like the daddy-daughter dance and a teacher takes pictures and wants to throw them on there? Is that violation of, like, the parent could take a picture, maybe? I think we're going to get down to, we don't know, our teachers may not know, oh, they're authorized to do it, but I'm not. And I just see on Facebook lots of kids having fun, and I didn't know I couldn't do that. Somebody else could do that. I think it might be confusing, but
And I think it might need to be a training issue because basically what we're talking about is like personal, like your personal social media kind of a thing that like, yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be entirely different if I had a teacher that came to me and said, hey, I took some pictures, can we put it on the school website? And you went that approval process, or not the the website, because we do it there as well, but also the school's social media, which is vastly different than someone's personal account for social media.
And you mentioned like the backs of their heads. So like in the example you give, the Raptor Laptor, there's 300 kids running laps and you take a picture of the field where they're running. That's different, right?
Yeah, there would be no expectation of privacy there. Also, the distance and the not training in on a single student or students that are at a close range. And then also providing like other personally identifiable information, which is oh, this is my first period class, and look how good they're doing. And then you've got
Versus just
a school, a time of day, you've got things that can be put together, yeah.
And I think also there is a difference between a teacher and a general person in public, and we see that in their ethics standards and what teachers can do and what a general person could do. And, you know, taking too many pictures or inappropriate pictures, that starts to get into grooming behavior and licensing behaviors. And so just being really clear that teachers don't post on social media students, I think is important because it's a support to teachers so they don't get called into question on other behaviors.
I think Board Member King, or President King, was right. It's the training that we're going to do for teachers that will help clarify that.
Any other discussion on policy 6.405, student image use and media? Okay.
I want to just say, I really appreciate this process. First of all, Joy Lynn, Melissa, and Julie Myers are on the policy committee, as well as the two of you are on the policy committee. And what I really appreciate is that you are very transparent, give us these policies way in advance, allow our feedback, which I did, and you addressed many of my concerns, so that when we get here, it's a little more refined, and I love that about it.
Thank you. Yeah, it is definitely a group effort, and appreciate the board members that have spent their every Monday afternoon working on policy, and we get to do that for a long time. But as always, if there's any feedback, even in the process that we can improve, let us know. We are, just for the public's knowledge and for your knowledge, we are looking at creating we are looking at ways to have policy drafts out to public so they can see those a little bit more in advance than a day before, because we're posting 24 hours. So we'll continue to work on that and continue to update our teachers and our administrators on that process for us to get feedback from everybody. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate all of your efforts. Next up on the agenda, we have action items. Our action item tonight is the 2027 board meeting calendar. It's currently in draft. Do we have a motion regarding the 2027 Board of Education meeting calendar?
Go ahead.
I move to approve the 2027 board meeting calendar.
We have a motion by Board Member Judkins. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Isaacson. Any discussion? I just wanted to clarify, this is actually, I know this is the calendar for next year. This is actually the last meeting that we will have in this building for a little while. We're starting a renovation on the building. So for the next little bit, we're going to be floating. But our board meetings are going to land at Westlake High School. So I just want to express appreciation to Westlake for being willing to host us for our board meetings. And we anticipate being back in this building roughly May or June of next year. But you'll notice on the calendar that it shows us being at Westlake through the end of August with kind of a little bit of an asterisk of that may change depending on how quickly the renovation goes for this building. Also, just a piece of note, it shows us through the end of June, maintaining the schedule we've had previously of meeting on the second and fourth Thursdays. But after July 1 of next year, when ASD is dissolved, we will flip to Tuesdays, the second and fourth Tuesdays, since we will no longer be in conflict with ASD's board meeting schedule. So just want to make sure that the public is aware that there will be a mid-year shift next year, that through June, we'll maintain our second and fourth Thursday, and then we'll flip to second and fourth Tuesdays once July hits.
I just noticed a potential issue. After Westlake, we're actually not coming back to the district office, since the board meeting space will be now offices and conference room.
That's accurate.
Yeah, it probably needs to read
Support Services Building.
Support Services Center.
So we need to amend the calendar. Do you guys want to amend your motion to reflect that the draft needs to be amended to state that the board meetings September on will be at the Support Services Building in place of the district office?
That was a lot of words.
You can also withdraw your motion.
Or you could just say yes.
Yes, please.
Are you in agreement?
I agree.
Okay. So Is there any other discussion regarding the calendar?
I just wanted to clarify. At first, I was a little concerned because I believe both of our cities meet on Tuesday nights. Both Eagle Mountain and Saratoga Springs meet on Tuesdays, but it's the 1st and 3rd, and we're proposing the 2nd and 4th. Because I want to make sure it's important that we have the opportunity to attend their meetings and collaborate with them and be able, and vice versa. So I think that will be okay. The other thing I like to say is I know we've been trying to get a lot done, and sometimes we don't get our notice till a day before, which is fine right now. But I think as we're pressing forward, I'd love to be able to, if we're having a Tuesday meeting, that we make sure we have stuff to the board by like Friday. So if we need to contact staff, we have that time on Monday and Tuesday before the board meeting. Just so we have the preparation, because having a meeting earlier in the week puts a lot on the staff to be ready in time. So I just thought in terms of planning and preparation for going ahead at some point that we can get things out to the board when possible.
Okay. Okay, so any other discussion? Okay, so we have a motion by Board Member Judkins and a second by Board Member Isaacson to approve the 2027 board meeting calendar with the amendment that the dates in September through December to the locations shifted to the Support Services Building. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that appears to pass unanimously. Next up, we have Superintendent and Board reports. Dr. Carter, we would invite you to come forward. What was that?
Who timed that?
So good.
I would like to say that I have my own walk-up music. And that's because this meeting has gone like double any of our previous meetings. And we can look forward to the same happening because of all the policy. But I do want to say thank you to the policy committee, to Dr. Bollinger, and to all of those who are assisting her. Travis Hamlin did it this time, but I know there are a lot of people writing a lot of policies. And for every hour we spend here, there are tens of hours spent on the policy. So thank you to them. I also, in conjunction with the renovation of this building, it was brought to my attention that it's like 80 degrees in here. And it's 77 degrees in the hall. I think the only thing that gets cool is the conference room, and it's completely empty. So the renovation is coming none too soon, and we're excited about that and everything that's going to happen. So I would like to introduce 2 new staff members, and one of them is here tonight, Matthew Ferguson, who is our Director of Finance, and we'd like to welcome him. He sat through one of the longest meetings we've had in a long time. And we will sit through budget meetings and things like that for you. So there you go. We also have Alicia Roseman, who will be the Director of Purchasing. Both of those were announced on Wednesday in the administrative announcement. We currently have a posting for the Director of Nutritional Services that is posted until filled. We're trying to get as much done as we can so that we can make all the job offers to the existing employees in Alpine School District and get that behind us. It was originally thought that it's by statute, it has to be done by January 1. We had thought it would be done by November, and it's looking like it might be done by September at the latest, which will be really great for people to just take a deep breath and to move forward. The things that I want to thank you for, number 1 is the Administrator Conference. That was a really, really big success. The administrators really enjoyed it. I appreciated those of you that were passing out shirts and just being enthusiastic about everything that was happening there. It was a big hit. Last night we had the ribbon cutting at Juniper Basin, which was just a great event as well. And they were wearing shirts that they got at the Administrator Conference, some of them. So I have to say a big thank you to all of the board members and to the staff members that supported that ribbon cutting, because there was a great turnout from our new staff and from our board, and showed really support for the brand new school and to the whole community. So thank you for that. On Tuesday also, there was the PTA kickoff, which we were able to present our mission, vision, values, and goals, and a number of you were at that event as well. We were able to share those with the PTA leaders in all of our schools, and there was a great turnout. We were pretty much like a bunch of sardines in that room, and it went fine. We will be moving to West Transportation. We want the public to know that we haven't disappeared from the face of the earth. We can be reached by email and by text message, but that is where, if you call over there, I do not know what the phone situation is over there, but I'm pretty sure we can get messages, and we'll be there throughout the renovation. And again, we want to thank Westlake for being so gracious in providing the library for us. So just for public awareness, that next board meeting, again, is at Westlake in the Media Center. And we appreciate everything you guys are doing. This has been a heavy couple of weeks with events, and so thank you so much for supporting everything.
Thank you, Dr. Carter. Board members, if you have reports to share. I think we're all really worn out from policy. Yes, and the thought of having some of these on the consent agenda and maybe one or two being pulled and discussed and whatever, that is really, I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be great. Okay, seeing no other discussion, we do not have need of a closed session this evening, so do we have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
I move to adjourn at 7:59.
A motion by Board Member Saucer. Do we have a second?
I second.
A second by Board Member Judkins. So with a motion by Board Member Saucer and a second by Board Member Judkins, do we have all in favor of adjourning our meeting? Please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That appears to pass unanimously. We are adjourned at 7:59 p.m. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate your attendance.